There was a time, not so long ago really, when natural forests like these were sort of, well, taken for granted. You see, there were so many of them, and so much wide open space in the early days of the pioneers that it never occurred to anybody that there'd come a day when we'd want to save some of these forests and protect some of that land. Fortunately, times have changed, and folks are beginning to realize how important it is to preserve at least a portion of their natural environment. In Jacksonville recently, a group of concerned citizens saw the need to protect a few hundred acres of undeveloped hillsides around their town. They felt that preserving the feel and the look of their historic past was important to their future. So, with the help of those volunteers, the woodlands around Jacksonville will remain untouched by modern development. So now and forevermore, anyone can come here and walk these historic trails where they discovered gold, enjoy the natural beauty, and know that Jacksonville and its surrounding hillsides will continue to look just as they always have. Yep, it's quite a story, and I can't think of a better way for you to hear it than from this grand old giant sequoia who's seen it all.
I love it up here. My little piece of heaven. My little perch right up here on the hill overlooking the town and the valley below. From here I can see the whole world. Well, at least my whole world. When I think of the rich parade of history I've seen over the years from my spot on this hillside. Fat times, lean times, fun times, and sometimes not so fun. But hey, 140 years, give or take a few, and you see a lot of stuff. And the big gold rush of the mid-1800s started it all. The way I've heard it told here in the forest, the year was 1852. A couple of prospectors, James Cluggage and James Poole, found gold in the creek just over there. Word spread pretty fast, and soon all kinds of temporary buildings were put up. Miners and prospectors flocked to the area, and Jacksonville became a boom town almost overnight, with everyone hoping they'd strike it rich. And from the stories I've heard, there were some pretty wild times in those early days. One of the first pioneers who came to Jacksonville along the Oregon Trail was a fellow by the name of Peter Britt. Now, Peter was an enterprising young man of many talents, and like thousands of others, tried his hand at gold mining. And like thousands of others, he soon realized mining was not for him. Oh, it was long, hard, cold, wet work. Not everyone got rich at it. So Peter gave it some thought. He decided to stay and put his photography skills to work. He opened up the first studio in Jacksonville, and over his lifetime took thousands of photos of the town and its people. Jacksonville's early history is one of the best documented in the country, mostly because of Peter and his camera. He eventually married and had children, built his home right here on this hill, and created beautiful gardens, orchards, and vineyards. You see, Peter knew the value of trees and plants and liked the rare and unusual ones, so he planted lots of them. He wanted a place that reminded him of his home in Switzerland. Matter of fact, and this is one of my favorite parts of this story, Peter helped me get my start way back in 1862. You see, I was on the back of a wagon traveling north from the Sierras of California. There was a variety of plants and trees for sale on the wagon that day, but I caught Peter's eye. He planted me in his backyard the day his son Emil was born. He knew someday I'd live up to my name, Giant Sequoia. And because sequoias are native to California, he also knew I'd be a one-of-a-kind item around these parts. And you know what? Well, yeah, he was right on both counts. I am a giant, over 200 feet tall. And even though I'm surrounded by lots of different kinds of trees, like oak, Douglas fir, madrone, ponderosa pine, I'm still the only sequoia on this hillside. Maybe even the oldest one in the whole state of Oregon. Now, here's something that Peter didn't count on. This hillside is now part of a 400-acre natural park, and I live right in the heart of it. Oh, he would be so pleased. You know, part of the charm of a town like Jacksonville is that it still looks like it did in the 1800s. You see, not long ago, a group of townspeople realized they needed to preserve more than just the buildings for people to enjoy. If the town was going to keep its historic look, the hillsides needed to be protected from development, too. They realized something else, too. The deer trails that already wind through these woods were a perfect beginning for a network of people trails. Well, the idea of a natural park right in town really caught on. Of course, a lot of people with different ideas had to come together and agree on a plan to preserve these hillsides. And then there was lots of work to do. Oh, money to raise, trails to clear. But now, almost everyone agrees that these undeveloped woodlands are an important contribution to the future of Jacksonville.
I think we have to let the future generations know what we're trying to do, and I want them to be able to see what we get to see in these beautiful woods.
Yeah, I think it's important because if we didn't, who knows? This might be a bunch of houses, not just beautiful forests.
Saving trees is important because they help us have fresh air, and they're just so beautiful for the environment.
This particular 380 acres is the most historic land around Jacksonville. When you live out in Medford, sometimes it's nice to get away and have a nice little nature trip.
And can you imagine what would happen if you look down and suddenly your mule pulls up a clump of grass like this and you look down it and what do you see? Gold. Gold! All over the roots of the grass. Well, that got Cluggage and Poole pretty excited, so they started checking it out. And they found this creek full of gold.
You see, the environment is part of our legacy, too. It needs to be protected just as much as historic buildings and artifacts. And since we have the ability to create our own future, to be any way we want it to be, we can make almost anything happen. Think about it. We can create our future instead of letting it just happen to us. That's what they're doing by carving out this urban park right here in Jacksonville, Oregon. They're inventing their future. Yes, sirree. Now, that's exactly what they're doing. You see, if I may regress just a tad, after the frenzy of the gold rush days, life around Jacksonville was good. Lots of families moved into the area, and agriculture thrived. Jacksonville was a county seat, a center of commerce, and the most important town in southern Oregon. Then a few things happened that caused Jacksonville to stop growing. In 1883, the railroad bypassed the town. It went from Grants Pass to Medford to Ashland. Without the railroad, Jacksonville was no longer an important trading center. And that signaled the end of the golden years of prosperity. Then things really took a downward trend in 1927 when the county seat was moved to Medford. It was almost as though the town went to sleep. Not long after, the Great Depression hit Jacksonville, just like it did the entire country. But you know what? Jacksonville never really became a ghost town, even though a lot of the buildings stood empty for a long time. The locals provided modest services to the surrounding area, particularly the Applegate Valley. And again, like everywhere else in the country, people just made the best of it. In Jacksonville, some even took to mining in their own backyards. And while they never got rich, it helped a lot of folks get by. Well, so Jacksonville had its good times and its bad times. And soon it was time for the good to start happening again. In the 1950s, a preservation movement began to sweep the nation. People became interested in restoring old buildings and preserving places of historical significance. People began to realize that history itself is a valuable resource. In 1966, Congress designated a number of places as historic and worth preserving, and Jacksonville was among them. It became a National Historic Landmark City. Imagine, a whole town became a national landmark. Besides learning about history, visiting the museums and the old buildings around town, there are lots of other reasons why people of all ages enjoy Jacksonville. The world-famous Peter Britt Music Festival in the summer, all the shops and restaurants in town, Mother Nature and the great outdoors, and now this natural park right on the edge of town. You know, some of the children who live in Jacksonville got involved with this Woodlands project early on, and I'm here to tell you, oh, they worked hard at saving us trees. They wanted future generations to enjoy us too. They helped raise money toward buying the land for this park. With the help of many adults and the Woodlands Association, they designed and sold T-shirts.
What does it say? I hiked the woods. And all the sponsors are in tree shape, and we can thank Dusty for something like that, for coming up with the idea.
Wrote, illustrated, and published a coloring book about Jacksonville and the Woodlands Project, and held special fundraisers. Of course, the adult volunteers helped out a great deal too. The mothers of 2 Jacksonville elementary school students came up with the idea of selling decorated Christmas trees during the holiday season. They called it Trees Saving Trees. The idea of creating a natural park around a town has gotten lots of attention. It's been written up in national magazines and recognized by organizations across the country. People are realizing that what you believe, you can achieve. Well, the children saw this park becoming a reality, and they worked harder than ever. They continued to find different ways of raising money and acquiring land.
Then there's one other really good source of money.
Applying for grants.
Grants, exactly.
They wrote letters to landowners seeking donations of land, or at least trying to see if they could buy some of the land they needed. Well, paid off. A big chunk of land right over there, the Ziegler Woods, was given to the Woodlands Association by the 90-year-old granddaughter of one of Jacksonville's pioneers. Now, that happened because 2 local boys involved in this project wrote to the granddaughter of pioneer Sarah Ziegler, who lives clear back in Indiana.
Dear Mrs. Von Tress, we are 2 fifth-grade students at Jacksonville Elementary School in Jacksonville, Oregon. Right now we are working with the Jacksonville Woodlands Association, trying to get land for a green belt around Jacksonville.
They told her what the Woodlands Project was all about, explained to her why they needed her 8-acre piece of land, and you know what? Well, Zelia Ziegler von Tress ended up giving it to them. Jacksonville's natural history blends so beautifully with its cultural history, and these nature trails help tell both these stories. Markers along the way tell where to look for abandoned gold mines, how to recognize methods the miners used, and they also tell how the Chinese workers came along and very patiently and very carefully got most of what was left over. Well, some leftovers turned out to be millions of dollars worth of gold. And guess what? They didn't get it all.
The secret is to get a little bit of mud. I had an old miner show me how to do this. And he said, you notice in the pictures they're always with one knee down, one knee up like this to give them a little support. Then it was a back and forth like this. Then you look, and then he said you flick out some of the heavier stuff. And then you spread it out, and you start looking for what he calls color. Color means the gold.
Yellow.
It's the yellow. And then you get a little bit more water, back and forth, back and forth. What are you trying to wash out?
Dirt.
The dirt, the mud, the rocks. Then he said you flick a little bit more in, then you try to clean it up and make it look clean again. And then back and forth. And then he'd look, oh, I've got some color there. And then you just keep working at it until finally they got the gold isolated. What causes the gold to drop down to the bottom?
The weight.
Right, it's weight. It's so heavy. It's one of the heaviest minerals on the face of the earth.
Isn't it amazing that millions of dollars worth of gold was found right here in the foothills of the Siskiyou Mountains? But right across the Rogue Valley in the Cascade Mountain Range, there's almost no gold at all. That's because the Siskiyous, of which I stand in the foothills of, are older. They're made of uplifted granite, sandstone, and quartz, a perfect hiding place for gold. And the Cascades, only 10 miles away, have hardly any gold in them because they're mostly lava rock from volcanoes. The earth over there just hadn't had time to settle yet. Even though we're not located that far apart from one another, there are lots of differences between the two mountain ranges. Actually, there are plants in these woodlands that don't live anywhere else in the whole world. I know I'm rather partial to the flora and fauna of this forest. After all, it is my home. But I think you'll agree when you come here. It's quite unique and very beautiful. Oh, but I'm sure you'll make many discoveries of your own when you come and visit.
Hey, look at this. See? Sky came up with a really good example of, here's a bark beetle hole, went right into it. And then if you'd look at the cambium layer, most likely, see part of it's missing, but if you looked at the next layer down, you would see
The marks.
Yeah, the marks.
May I take this back to class?
Sure.
Right on the edge of the woodlands is the old cemetery. I know you'll like walking around there. The pioneer graves help tell a fascinating story. And actually, if I stretch just a little, I can see the Britt family's graves from here. You know, to me, Jacksonville is more than just a town with an interesting history. Oh, plenty goes on here. Like the Peter Britt Music Festival. It takes place every summer at the beautiful outdoor pavilion that was built right over there, just behind where Peter's house once stood. You know, sometimes on really popular evenings, the people line up way ahead of time to get the best spot for their picnic blanket. And oh, you should see it when they open the gates. Well, as you've probably gathered by now, I could go on and on talking about Jacksonville, its history, the Woodlands Project, and how unique and wonderful I think it all is. But you know what? You're just going to have to come and see for yourself. Oh, and when you're visiting, please, watch out for all the critters that call the Woodlands area home, especially the deer. They're so comfortable here. They think nothing of roaming through the town whenever they please. And when you get to the nature trails, make sure you stop and say hello. You can't miss me. I'm the tallest and oldest tree in the forest. And thanks to the Woodlands Association, we'll all be around for a long, long time. Yahoo! I love it here. My little perch up here on the hillside. My little piece of heaven. Why, from here, I can see the whole world.